Santa's gonna sit on your lap.
Wait!
No!
Claytality!
A stop-motion video game? How does that work? Most see video games as either 3D rigs or 2D pixels, though some have used videos and photographs of real people to make those 2D pixels. In the early 90s when CG wasn't so common and you wanted to push realism, this was as real as it could get. Games like Mortal Kombat were known for this, but how do you include some otherworldly creatures like this centaur and manage to make it as realistic as the human photos? Stop, Mo, you goddamn mofo. Some great creature designs came from this blend of mediums in all sorts of games like Doom. It was like the virtual equivalent of what Ray Harryhausen did, but those are just small elements in bigger games. There's ones that rely more heavily on the medium. All sorts of genres, from point-and-click adventures like The Neverhood that used over 3 tons of clay, to shooters like Platypus made from one piece of clay, constantly reshaped, then colorized on a computer. But there's one in particular that I just love. A stop-motion fighting game that deserved way better, and that's Primal Rage. Though I regret to remind you all, this video is about ClayFighter.
Don't be cruel now.
The rise and fall, no wait, the ground leveling and digging of its own grave of ClayFighter. A game developed by Visual Concepts and published by Interplay, the creators of Fallout 1 who constantly rushed Clay's production and completely screwed everything up. Allegedly. We'll get into that. Get ready for the sad demise of possibly the most recognizable claymation game franchise. It's Juice and Jam time. $1993 on Super Nintendo. This is where greatness begins. Somewhere far and away from this game. Many people tend to look back on this franchise as alright, but the claymation gimmick is still so underutilized today that you can't help but see a charm to it. Unfortunately, the gameplay is not as unique. ClayFighter's mechanics and story is so scarce that you'd think this was Street Fighter V. The only backstory you get is a single sentence proclaiming that each of these guys dreams of being the king of the circus. Included is this theme song that just begs to be a cartoon on Fox Kids. Music with lyrics on a Super Nintendo, that's pretty advanced. Maybe this was a first for the console. And it was performed by a group called Euphony. It's a good theme song, but no, ClayFighter never got a cartoon, which blows because the animation was done by Danger Studios, known for Bump in the Night.
My name is Mr. Bumpy, I go bump in the night!
Oh, and the animation director for ClayFighter was Ken Pontac, an animator who also wrote for many other things including Happy Tree Friends, Mad World, Sonic Colors, Generations, Forces, Boom Rise a Lyric, and he also wrote the lyrics to this song.
Do what you want, 'cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
That is a goddamn resume right there. Anyway, ClayFighter has been criticized for being way too simple. Despite the weird characters, each one plays about the same and sharing the same set of button combos, with maybe one exclusive ability if you're lucky. I guess it was meant to be easier to get into, like the box should just say, hey, stupid.
Oh, me?
Are most combos too hard for you, but you're not lobotomized enough to play Smash Bros? Try this, home slice, you goddamn moot.
Ladies and gentlemen, here are the combatants for this extravaganza. Bad Mr. Frosty versus Cassie.
Like any fighter, you have the arcade mode, yet they repeat the same challengers a few times for filler. MK1 kinda did that, so whatever.
Hey, what's the hair, man? Hey, what's the hair, man? Hey, what's the hair, man?
You fight until you reach this thing. Looks like the tapeworm inside my colon or Martha Wayne's necklace. The end boss here is called N-Boss. Yeah, like M. Bison of Street Fighter. I'm too afraid to ask what the N stands for. Please, everyone in the comments, what could this word starting with the letter N be? What's the word with the first letter N that they might not want to say, so they had to abbreviate it? We may never know what the N means, so what do we get when we finish off the boss? A story cutscene? Nope. Nothing. Hey, what's faster than Sonic the Hedgehog? Trademark. Wackier than The Simpsons? Trademark. Funnier than Battletoads? Trademark. It's ClayMates! Yeah, a spin-off to ClayFighter released the same year in '93. How are they connected? Well, apparently they take place in the same town, and you see these animals you play as? They appear in ClayFighter to number which round you're currently on, and that's it. There's hardly any connection, and here's another letdown. ClayMates barely has any stop-motion assets. Only the playable characters, the bosses, and maybe some platforms actually resemble Clay. But what's the game about? The story is that your dad has been kidnapped by this savage who lives in a straw hut and puts scan lines in his emulator. Meanwhile, you play as Clayton, who was turned into a clay ball. From then on, you bounce through the levels collecting other clay spheres to transform you into an animal like a bird.
I'm a fucking bird. I'm beautiful and cute. Holy shit.
Other animals include cats for climbing, fishes for swimming, a gopher for digging, and a rat who can run a little faster and whoa, damn boy, he's faster than Eminem on the mic! The speed is freaking overkill. No wonder the box says the game has Blaze processing. Take that, Sega. Momentum is just your worst enemy in the game. Like, whatever you do, don't run and pick up a transformation ball. Yeah, the game's a bit slippery. It's a standard platformer with transformation powers like Kirby or Kid Chameleon. It's nothing too special, and I wrote more about this game, but maybe I'll save it for another video. Let's get back into ClayFighter. In a time before DLC, fighting games got updates in the way of releasing the same entry again, but with minor refinements. So nostalgic, I'm glad sports games to this day still keep up the tradition. It's appropriate because the developers of NBA and WWE 2K, Visual Concepts, used to develop ClayFighter. This is the 1994 Tournament Edition, a Blockbuster exclusive rental. That's right, you couldn't buy the game at the time, you could only rent it. What a concept. I could use a little fuel myself. Tournament Edition feels like what the original should have been. Same game, but it's faster, smoother, you got more balanced tweaks, new stages can pick your color, and of course, a tournament bracket mode, which I refuse to believe that many people played ClayFighter in the same room. Could you imagine studying ClayFighter metagame and memorizing combos in the Shaolin Monastery only to be defeated in a tournament by a 4-year-old chain smoker spamming light kick? I can, because I was that chain smoker. Among the improvements is an actual intro cutscene where a meteor blows up a circus, killing, I assume, hundreds of people and clowns, which are their own species if you want to get technical. From the rubble emerges mutated carnies with the power of clay.
Oh, cut in half! Cut in half!
Hey, what's the hair? What's the hair, man? Oh, mama. I'm gonna get you out. Oh, mama.
The characters now have endings, but only on the hardest difficulty, which I am not wasting my time with that. So thanks for uploading the endings, YouTube account White Boy Gaming. Now we can see these .txt files before our eyes. Yes! For Olga, the opera singer's ending, she received many marriage proposals and rejected most of them, one of which by Olaf the Stout, a character from Lost Vikings, also published by Interplay and developed by Blizzard. It's like anyone associated with ClayFighter is freaking cursed!
Double KO!
While this Tournament Edition is an improvement, one setback is that there's no new characters and the backgrounds are very inconsistent. The first games were all 2D drawings, but this update has the same backdrops with some clay assets mixed in. It kinda clashes. Then there's the Elvis guy Blue Suede Goose stage going from a giant piano to this ninth circle of hell. Just a raw Kodak print of Elvis's dead corpse in the toilet. The better stages are the ones that are full-on clay models. You don't see a lot of that in gaming, but sometimes they just repeat them with a simple color change. That's odd. But overall, Tournament Edition is kinda good. I've been dissing on this game, but this franchise shows it can really improve itself when it has the right development time. Plus, I love the clay gimmick. A major reason why this series got popular was it being the goofy, fun alternative to all the bloody, controversial fighting games at the time.
It's about clay. Wins the battle.
To add to the charm, just look at these print ads that made a tradition to bash their competitors. Mortal Kombat tells you to prepare yourself. Meanwhile, ClayFighter says no, prepare yourself for this. I swear I've seen comics with these two ads in the same book. And how about this one? Nothing can prepare you. I'm prepared. Oh, snap. ClayFighter tried to be the Mad Magazine of fighting games, and perhaps it's not just a gimmick. Since they really refined the first game, maybe they can keep improving the franchise. Maybe it really is all uphill from here.
You couldn't get much closer than that. The Blob wins the battle.
There'll be more ClayFighter after a commercial break.
After these messages, we'll be right back. And now, back to the show.
ClayFighter 2, Judgement Clay. We're back.
It really is all downhill from here. 1985's ClayFighter 2 Judgement Clay. While Clay 1 was developed in a year, Clay 2 was rushed out in 6 months with an entirely new engine built and new models all from the ground up, and yeah, it feels that way. The original, each character had about 5 to 9 special moves. The sequel, they got about 2 or 3. That's it. There's not even a final boss. At the end of the arcade mode, you face a recolor of yourself. Each character has an evil doppelganger. It works like Sub-Zero and Scorpion. Similar, but new special moves, new stances, and character profiles. So instead of having 8 characters with a decent amount of combos, it's 16 with their moves split in half.
Cut it in half.
In the very least, the game does handle smoother. It's impressive they put this together in 6 months, but they didn't even have time to program grabs and throws into the game. Almost everything about this is a downgrade. The sprites are smaller, and some characters don't even look stop motion. This rabbit feels straight up hand-drawn at times. Part of it's nice how they brought back old characters with new models, but I feel like that wasted time and money for a game done in a limited schedule. They gave the poster boy Bad Mr. Frosty a new look with a cool 90s backwards cap. Ugh, he looks like young Mark Wahlberg in his Funky Bunch days. The only animations they recycled from the previous game was the strongman Tiny. He looks completely different from everyone else, like he's shinier and more 3D-ish. Even the producer of the series, Jeremy Airy, agreed Part 2 was rushed and had inferior animations done by a different team.
I won't say who did I work on Clay 2, but let's just say that it was horrendous. Total crap. To prove the point to ourselves, we used the original bits from Clay 1, Tiny, and threw him into Clay 2. He is the best looking character in the game.
So, was there anything I liked? Well, the gameplay's smoother and the backgrounds are something. Now they're entirely made of clay. Some of these stages are static, like it's literally just a Polaroid, but I love how crude it is. It feels like I'm playing some cheap animated short you'd see on MTV or Kablam. They're almost nightmarish, like what is this? This Warriors of Virtue tank girl looking hell. You got what I believe is Michael Jackson, Jack Nicholson, and a very questionable image of Don King. Oh boy. And then you have this place, a baby prison. What the heck? It looks like Jeffrey Epstein's daycare on his island. Believe me, I've been there. Got a foot rub, got to meet Matt Groening, it was wild. He taught me how to draw Bart. You see his spikes? He's got 9 of those. Trade secret, no one else knows that but us. I also like the title, C2 Judgement Clay. We gotta bring back the naming scheme. T2 Judgment Day, D2 Mighty Ducks, X2 X-Men United. Good stuff. Now, this game was promised to have not fatalities, but clay-talities, according to Interplay's website in the 90s, but they had no time to work on that. Among the cuts for time was the character Lucy, a gorilla in a dress, and the real final boss named Dr. Killin. This whole game is a missed opportunity. We saw with the previous one what they can do at the proper time, and this was just rushed out. But maybe they can fix it all for the tournament edition. Oh, they never made a tournament edition. Hasta la pasta, baby. You damn California raisin.
Interplay presents ClayFighter 63 1/3.
First titled ClayFighter 3 Chaos on Claymodo, it was announced for the Panasonic M2, a console that was going to be an add-on to the 3DO but was made into its own console and eventually made into a cancelled product. So Clay 3 switched gears for the PS1 and N64 as ClayFighter Extreme. But the PS1 game was cancelled, so the N64 was made exclusive since the team found it easier to program for. Producer Jeremy Airy admitted in a 1996 IGN interview that Clay 2 was a mistake and Clay 63 is what the first game should have been. Conceptually, it's an improvement. They advertised parry mechanics, a combo system, and claytalities finally in the game. And with the next-gen hardware, the digitized photos can look even more so like actual clay. Just look at these concept images released for promotion. Wow-a-wee-wa, it's like an interactive stop-motion movie. Now let's look at the real game. Oh boy, well, those 2D sprites are, you know, it's the N64, they were good for the time, but those murky, muddy 3D backgrounds are just unappealing. Really wish the whole game stuck to 2D, but they had to incorporate 3D since that was the big new thing.
Fight! Fly down to the sky! The Kringle Crush!
The game just struggles to even play. With limited cartridge space, they really had to compress and remove animation frames just to be functional. Performing specials with your power bar on full seems unresponsive. It's such a clunky game, and then there's the claytalities, where you have to stand at the exact spot or it doesn't work. Remember, you only have a few seconds to do it, so you better get it right.
Claytality!
There's a cheat for infinite time to do a claytality, and I swear, some of these do not work. I'm doing the exact button combos, but you just have to figure out the exact spot on where to stand. I spent several minutes attempting a specific claytality, and it's not working. What am I doing wrong? There is a Mr. Brightside. With the new hardware means far more moves and a strong cartoon voice cast. Just look at the credits. It's pretty impressive. And included among the roster are fighters from other Interplay games, Boogerman and Earthworm Jim. And yes, Homer Simpson's voice, Dan Castlevania reprises his role as Jim.
Wow, Nelly!
Plus, the announcer is the Michael Let's Get Ready to Rumble and Get Paid to Do Nothing Else buffer.
Let's get ready to crumble! Let's get this over with!
I just want to know how much of the budget went into this man doing all these lines.
Little girly combo.
Dumb combo! Call me Daddy!
The personality is really shining in this game's roster, but before the game's release, they had to remove one character, Hobo Cop, since he was deemed too offensive. A cop who lost his job and became an alcoholic cyborg who was just too much for that T rating according to Nintendo. Though somehow that was too far, but Kung Pao, the bucktooth karate chopping Asian character, was totally fine.
No MSG!
Wow, incredible.
Fight!
Look at what you did to poor Mr. Frosty. He is just appalled at what he is witnessing. The sheer, uncut, uncensored, uncircumcised racism on this man is just radiating off him. Absolutely radiating. He is the Chernobyl of racism.
For here or to go! Claytality!
Terrible. While Hobo Cop was cut out, the final boss, Dr. Killen, was added in, who was originally supposed to be in ClayFighter 2. Again, this franchise just needs the proper development time, and it could be something great. Though I don't know if the 3D could have been any better on this system. Like, why did they render the kid from Trick or Treat on the toilet here? Or maybe that's Omi from Shaolin Showdown. We may never know. So once you beat the game, you get some ending text and a message joking about how no animals were harmed in the making of this game, except for Lockjaw. Who the hell is Lockjaw? This character is nowhere else in this game. Is this just some programmer's confession about how they abused some poor cartoon dog? Well, we'll get some answers with the next game.
Claytality!
There'll be more ClayFighter after a commercial break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Manscaped, back at it again, yep, Manscaped. You want to shave your... Lawnmower 3.0. It's not for your face, it's for anywhere below your neck. It's TSA friendly. You'd wish the TSA would cuff your clean-shaven balls for carrying this around. Get 20% off plus free shipping and 2 free gifts with the code TAXI20 at manscaped.com. And look at this. It's got a light in case you're spelunking on the moon and want to shave. It's perfect for where the sun don't shine. I'm too afraid to look at my own reflection in the mirror, so this is perfect for me. And don't worry about cuts. It's skin-safe technology. No nicks, no snags guaranteed. Plus, the 3.0 is backwards compatible, meaning you can use the 2.0's replaceable ceramic trimmer blade, and vice versa. PS4 ain't backwards compatible, but this is. Once again, get 20% off plus free shipping and 2 free gifts with the code TAXI20 at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you, and so will I. Manscaped also works for female sexes too.
A meteor crashed one fateful day to muddle creatures into clay with heroes bent on doing right and twisted foes up for the fight. ClayFighter! 1-to-1 they set the stage. ClayFighter! Pounding clays on the road.
So, I guess nobody was playing ClayFighter at any tournaments. What a shocker, cause this ain't the tournament edition, it's the Sculptors Cut. Move over, Snyder. The game is notorious for being another blockbuster exclusive with only 20,000 copies made, supposedly. You wanna buy this? Well, good freaking luck. Is the price worth it?
Smells like an easy win. Fight!
No. It's the same game as before. It runs a little smoother, but still feels unresponsive to my button presses. At the same time, they remove auto combos, so button mashing isn't as useful. At least now you got an intro theme that straight up sounds like Danny Elfman. Like, I'm not crazy here. Can't you just hear Jack Skellington?
Pounding clays on the road. That may have been all to the tale, but Dr. Kiln planned to prevail and re-release the meteor's goo and set more fighters on the loose. ClayFighter! Punch and kick and they do tricks. ClayFighter! Some are made as hard as bricks.
The game's cartridge holds more memory, so it features extra characters that were actually cut from the previous entry, including Lockjaw and many more, but Hobocop is still missing. With new characters, the roster had to remove some animation frames and special attacks, but it's still a big step up. What's kind of fascinating is this franchise started as something kinda cutesy and progressively got way more attitude, almost like they were afraid of looking childish. Bad Mr. Frosty went from a grumpy neighbor to this absolute beast ready to consensually ram my sweet ass over the table.
Call me Daddy.
It's a bit ahead of its time. This reminds me of when the next generation of mascots during the PS2 era all got a lot angry on the covers, like, damn bro, who inseminated your mother? Me. I inseminated her. Never bite the hand that pays for your Disney Plus subscription, kid.
Your mother's a claymate.
Everyone in ClayFighter is just raging. Everyone but Taffy, this literal piece of taffy. He doesn't look so different, except now he's packing heat.
Itty bitty combo.
Oh, no, you don't.
Yeah, he'll gun down Sumo Santa, he don't care. ClayFighter 3 is edgier, but I'm glad they still kept up the goofy attitude. Though with the violence, there comes a point where you just feel bad for these guys. The poor Blob constantly screams, "I'm a human being," as he's being pummeled.
That was brilliant.
This poor victim of circumstance screaming for his own humanity, like, damn, Jesus wishes he suffered as much as this guy.
That's a rip. Give it time. Give it time.
Stop! Stop it! Just stop it already!
He's already dead.
Not like this. Not like this.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, you lose.
Now, one ambitious feature is, just like with Dead or Alive, you can knock your opponent to a new area. A lot of these stages are interconnected, leading to one another and then some. Like, if you want to fight in this tiny cabin, go for it. It's so excessive that it works as parody. Almost. This feature is in both versions of the game, but in Sculptors Cut, the door to enter the next area is almost like a black hole sucking you in. I guess because in the previous edition it was kind of hard to trigger a stage transition.
Stop, Candy. Bye-bye.
Well, that that was a queen combo.
While this blockbuster exclusive game goes for hundreds on eBay, you can still buy some reproduction cards for cheap. But there's actually a few related things that are even rarer out there. So Nintendo Power Magazine held a contest, and by contest I mean filling out a survey since it's cheaper than focus testing. The randomly selected grand prize winner got to visit Interplay's offices and try ClayFighter 3 early, plus they would have a sculpture made in their image. The winner was 11-year-old Elliot Hauser from St. Paul, Minnesota. Damn, wonder where that guy is now, and does he still have the figure? Other contests involve winning figurines of the characters, which somebody on YouTube seems to have won, I think. Maybe they made it themselves? They don't say where they got these, and the channel's been long abandoned. Like, I really would love to own a prop or something from this franchise. That's assuming they're intact. Props such as these tend to be made from a material that deteriorates over time. Like, you remember Hoggle, this puppet from Jim Henson's Labyrinth? Well, this is him now.
Can I, like, yeah.
You probably could. Whoa. Oh, that was quick.
Who's this guy over here?
Oh, that's Brian.
Martha?
No.
Oh, but I think the rarest prize from these Interplay contests are official ClayFighter boxers. Whoever still has those and wore them, you can keep. Nobody wants that. Oh, and while searching through Nintendo Power Magazine for these contests, I found this print ad telling you to renew your subscription. Good God, yeah, this kid in the middle of a firing squad all because his subscription is almost up. How does it feel to be the center of attention? Damn, is this what it's like to be canceled on Twitter for something you said in 2002?
Snoko squeeze!
From ear to ear, clay mobile, I'll just quakes in fear, but none of our heroes have their way and force the evil goons to pay.
ClayFighter the Sculptors Cut is an improvement, but it doesn't save the game. It's still pretty clunky. I'll at least give it an okay rating. No, you know what? It's just bad. It's pretty bad. But I'm afraid this is where the series ends. Or does it? Or did it? Whichever is more grammatically correct. There were announcements for new entries in the 2010s that were quietly cancelled. Some other day I should get into the aftermath, the epilogue to explain the abrupt end to the series that should have been included in this video, MK. ClayFighter was kind of a gimmick, but it's clear many of these games had potential if they weren't all rushed out the door or lacked the technology. To this day, stop-motion gaming is incredibly rare, but you'll find it if you look hard enough. Makes me wish somebody such as Leica Studios or Aardman tried it. Maybe someday.
ClayFighter, blow by blow, no turning back. ClayFighter, living mud on the attack, but who will win the final?
Check them out. Pick up a book. You got a fantasy? Imagination can take you to where you want to be. Are you curious? How can you find out? Books. Check them out. Books. Check them out. Read about stars and cars, play electric guitars, or cops that work hard, patrolling the boulevard, the heavyweight champ and as crazy as bout. Books. Check them out. Books. Check them out. At your library.
Mash 'em, now that you study a little, and now you're a little out of shape.